Ever woken up thinking you're about to have a peaceful Saturday, only to find out your whole life's been hijacked by a circus you didn't buy tickets for? That was me. 6 a.m., still half asleep, stepping out with my boots and a pail to milk my cows, and bam, wedding bells, white tint, 200 strangers dancing on my pasture like it's Studio 54. There's a DJ spinning uptown funk, flower girls doing cartwheels, and my heifer staring the crowd like she's just seen a UFO. Oh, and the cherry on top? The mother of the bride, of vision in high heels and fresh cow manure, comes charging at me like she's auditioning for Real Housewives of Nowhere, USA, and snaps. You need to leave immediately. This is private property. I just blinked and said, "Lady, it's my private property." Yeah, that happened. And that's how I met Delilah Penworth, HOA president, professional pain in my backside, the woman who managed to convince a couple hundred people my family's ranch was her personal wedding venue. You'd think that was the worst of it, but nope. By the time I realized what was happening, $15,000 worth of heirloom tomatoes had been stomped into ketchup. My prize Holstein cow had panicked and bolted clear to the next county, and the whole place reeked of crushed tomatoes and Chanel No. 5 and raw panic. If you've never seen panic mixed with expensive perfume and cow pies, let me tell you, it's an acquired taste. But here's the thing about Morrison men, we don't fold. And when my old neighbor Earl fired up his diesel manure spreader and sent a wall of organic aroma rolling across Delilah's Pinterest-perfect setup, well, some city folks learn the difference between rustic and just plain farm. You know what I mean? Ever have that moment where you just know? If you don't stand your ground right now, you're going to spend the rest of your life getting steamrolled? That was me. And hey, what would you have done? Let me know down below where you're watching from. I know every state's got their own brand of crazy. But let me back up a second because you got to understand just how far this mess goes back. Name's Jake Morrison, 4th generation on this land. Morrison Ranch, 127 acres of real cattle country. My great-granddad, Silas, cut it out of wild brushback in 1891, built these barns with his own hands. This isn't just some patch of dirt, it's everything. The air in those barns smells like sweet alfalfa and old stories. When my dad passed in 2019, heart attack, quick and mean, he left me not just land, but a $340,000 farm debt that felt like a pair of concrete boots. My old man, God love him, did business with a handshake and stored his paperwork in coffee cans. The first time I went to the bank looking for a loan, wearing work boots and smelling like I just wrestled a calf, they looked at me like I'd crawled out from under a tractor. But I'm stubborn, too stubborn to give up on the land or the promise I made over my father's grave. In 2021, I took a gamble, went organic. Not for some noble reason, just because city restaurants pay top dollar for tomatoes that cost twice as much and come with a story. Last year, for the first time, I made enough to breathe easy at night, even after my ex packed up and left for the city with half my savings. You could put a price on land, but not on the feeling you get running your hand over a newborn calf or a perfect tomato. Some things are worth a fight, but the neighborhood started to change. In 2020, some developer with too much money and not enough sense bought the old Henderson place next door, 300 acres gone. By 2022, it was Willowbrook Estates, 200 country-style mansions, HOA fees higher than my monthly feed bill. These folks wanted the view, but not the reality. Instagram sunsets, yes. Rooster at dawn, absolutely not. Enter Delilah, corporate lawyer turned HOA dictator, 48 going on forever. Her husband, king of the urgent care clinics, bought the biggest house just for its sweeping views of my pasture. They spent $1 million just to complain about the smell of cows from their deck, sipping wine and plotting the next move. Delilah's daughter Brittany, bless her heart, wanted a big rustic wedding, $85,000 worth of twinkle lights and fake country charm. You ever notice the ones who play farmer dress-up always spend the most? The first warning shot came 3 months before the wedding. Delilah herself, striding onto my property in a business suit with a clipboard like she's a sheriff. She said my fence was 3 feet over the common area and handed me a survey from 1987, 35 years before her subdivision even existed. "You'll need to move it," she said, voice dripping with that tone you use for slow kids and wayward dogs. 12 grand for a new fence. I was fried, harvest season, exhausted, desperate to keep the peace, so like a fool I signed. Give a bully an inch, and they'll take your whole damn farm. From there, it snowballed. 3 weeks before the big wedding, Delilah showed up again, all smiles, and we're so grateful. This time, she's not asking, she's telling. I've agreed to let them use my pasture for the ceremony. Offers me $500, barely enough to fix a fence post, let alone recover from 200 party guests. I told her no. That's when her smile went ice cold. We'll see about that, she said. A few days later, she's back with a contract, waving it like she's Ed McMahon with my sweepstakes check. Wedding for 180, barn access for their Instagram dreams, and, oh look, a clause about establishing community use precedent. I refused again. The mask slid off her face faster than paint in July. Next thing I know, there's an emergency HOA meeting. 30 angry neighbors and a PowerPoint presentation titled Agricultural Nuisances Threatening Our Values. She's got photos of my manure pile, totally legal, by the way, calling a public health risk. Grain storage? Suddenly, I've got a rodent infestation. Her solution is a $25,000 manure management system. Here's the thing. She didn't count on me doing my homework. That night, I stayed up reading, called the county clerk in the morning. Turns out, Delilah had filed a property dispute, claiming adverse possession rights. You ever read those horror stories about folks losing their land cause they didn't understand the law? Yeah, adverse possession needs 10 years of continuous use, and Delilah filed before setting a foot on my property. Created her own paper trail, bless her conniving heart. That's when I called Gus, my dad's old lawyer, a bulldog in suspenders who's been battling developers since before Delilah learned how to spell nuisance. Gus saw through her like glass, said it was a straight-up land grab dressed up in HOA paperwork. But we had our own ace, right to farm laws. Turns out, our county protects agricultural land from nuisance complaints, especially when they come from folks who moved in yesterday and want to change everything. Delilah didn't quit. She started filing complaints everywhere. Health department, zoning board, you name it. Even called in a surprise inspector during calving season. Tried to ding me for a loose gate latch and a sun-faded organic poster. Nothing stuck. Funny thing, though, I did a little digging and found out the inspector's brother-in-law just bought a house in Willowbrook. Filed an ethics complaint, and poof, his license was on hold. Suddenly, those urgent violations didn't seem so urgent. But Delilah's real game was nastier. She tried to wreck my business. Restaurants started getting anonymous tips about contaminated produce. I got ahead of it, called every chef and owner, offered them free soil testing, let the health department check everything. The claims were bogus, and folks started seeing through the lies. And then, the grand finale, Delilah's wedding party, showing up at dawn on my land, acting like they own the place. That's when Earl, God bless him, rolled up with his ancient manure spreader, belching smoke, gears grinding, and let loose right upwind of the white tent. The smell hit first, the kind of smell that would make a city kid reconsider country living. The guests scattered like pigeons at a parade. DJs, decorators, even the caterer made a break for it. Sheriff Thompson pulled in, slow and steady, walking through my ruined tomato patch with a look on his face like he'd just stumbled into a soap opera. "Morning, Jake," he says. "Looks like you've got some unexpected company." Delilah tries to bluff it out. Just a misunderstanding. But when I pulled out my great-granddad's deed from 1891, showed the sheriff in front of everybody, she knew she was done. "Ma'am," the sheriff said, all official-like, "you're trespassing on private property. That's up to $1,000 a head." Her face went from red to white to green. Phones disappeared. Nobody wanted their face on the 6 o'clock news. In less time than it takes a hen to lay an egg, the wedding was relocated, the guests were gone, and Delilah's reputation in Willowbrook Estates was toast. My land stayed mine, my tomatoes still grow, and, most important, nobody's coming for the Morrison Ranch without a fight. So what do you think? Was I right to stand my ground, or should I have caved to the HOA machine? Have you ever had to go toe-to-toe with a bully or a board? Tell me your wildest story down in the comments. Don't hold back. Justice means something different to everybody. So where do you draw the line between neighborly and necessary? Hit like, drop your state, and share your take. I'll be right here, sipping coffee, ready for round 2.